What's up, guys? My name is Joe. Today we're coming at you with some super actionable fantasy football advice with 4 running back sleepers you absolutely have to be drafting in your 2025 fantasy football drafts that are coming up in just a few short weeks. These running backs are all super undervalued because of their ADP, and I try to pick some guys that aren't being talked about too much. And starting off this list, we have James Conner, veteran running back for the Arizona Cardinals. He was a guy that helped me win the championship for my fantasy football league in 2024. I'm sure he can do it again. Conner finished as the running back 11 last season, even with missing a few games. Please tell me why, after finishing as the 11th best running back in fantasy football in only 15 games, he's being drafted later than he was in 2024 when he had a worse fantasy finish. I mean, according to Fantasy Pros, he finished as the running back 18 in 2023, and that's exactly where he was drafted in terms of ADP in 2024. After finishing as the running back 11 in 2024, he's now being drafted as the running back 20 in 2025. I mean, he finished way better than he did the year prior, but he's being drafted way later. That absolutely screams value in the middle rounds of fantasy drafts, and Conner could be a real building block for your roster. I mean, we can go over all the stats we want. He had a 90.6 rushing grade from PFF in 2024, which was 6th best in the entire NFL. He also had a career high in receiving yards with 414, meaning he's a great PPR running back to own. He set a career high in carries, rushing yards, and even scored 8 touchdowns in 2024, just some ridiculous numbers at that age. I mean, you don't see a lot of running backs setting career high numbers in their age 29 season. And speaking of touchdowns, Conner, since joining Arizona back in 2021, so we have 4 years of sample size, he's scored almost an average of 10 rushing touchdowns per season. That is just fantastic. Also, if you watch Conner on the field in 2024, you know he was a big play threat, a real home run hitter at the running back position. He was a constant threat for a huge play, whether it be on the ground or through the air, and that was reflected in the stat sheet. He had 34 runs of at least 10 plus yards, which are classified as explosive plays by PFF, and he was the only running back with less than 240 carries to have at least 30 of those explosive runs. In other words, Conner is ridiculously efficient and is a great bet to get some huge plays for your fantasy team. I mean, almost 15% of his carries last year were for over 10 yards. And going back to that efficiency, he logged 4.6 yards per carry last year, which is a really strong number. Conner is such a quality running back, and even heading into his age 30 season, he's going to be a massive part of this Arizona offense. It's obvious he's found his perfect fit in the Arizona desert, and I expect him to dominate this year for fantasy football. He's just so fun to watch and a true dynamic threat on the field. As for the competition he's facing, the Cardinals did take Trey Benson in the 3rd round of the draft last year. I think he's got the potential to be a 3-down back, and I really like him as a prospect coming out of Florida State, but I don't think it's the year he takes over. The Cardinals did sign Conner to a 2-year extension last season, but after the 2025 season, his dead cap hit goes way down, making it super easy for the Cardinals to cut him after this year and let Benson take over in 2026. I think Benson can be their lead running back in the future, but this year is just not the one where he's going to get a lot of volume. Conner is still the guy for at least one more year, and you have to draft him at a running back 20 ADP in fantasy football after a running back 11 finish last season. Heading into our second player, we have Caleb Johnson, rookie running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's being drafted as the running back 25 this season. Obviously, as a rookie, we have to look at his prospect profile. He's a very physical runner who has a lot of patience at the line of scrimmage. I love the way he reads his blocks and waits for the holes to open, but he also has very good size at 6'1", 224 pounds. On top of that, for his size, he has great acceleration, making a lot of big plays possible. He did a lot of that at Iowa. And when you look at the Steelers' offseason moves, they seem to be going all in on this offense for 2025. They signed 41-year-old legendary quarterback Aaron Rodgers to be under center for them. They also traded for wide receiver DK Metcalf and tight end Jonnu Smith. I believe if their goal is a deep playoff run this season, they're going to try out the best running back they have to be their top rusher. And if Caleb Johnson's in a competition for the starting running back role, I think he can beat out Jaylen Warren. Warren's a very solid running back, but I think Johnson's just the better player overall. Obviously, I think it's going to be a committee to start out. I'm not going to argue with that at all, but I think Johnson, as he gets adjusted to the NFL level, he's going to get a lot better very quickly. I mean, this is a guy who averaged 6.4 yards per carry in his final year at Iowa, also scoring 21 rushing touchdowns and rushing for over 1,500 yards in the process. And as we know, rookie running backs tend to break out if they have the talent and the opportunity. I truly believe in Johnson as a prospect. He was my running back 3 in this year's draft class, which as we know was elite. And I think he's a very high floor prospect that the Steelers got in a steal in the 3rd round this year. With that running back 25 price tag, he is a very low-risk asset to own in fantasy this year. And he's in a good situation if he can edge out Jaylen Warren for those carries. The Pittsburgh Steelers had the 9th highest run block grade from PFF last season, and only lost one major piece in Dan Moore at tackle this offseason. Overall, I'm very high on Caleb Johnson as a prospect. I think he's in a good situation, and if he can win the RB1 job, I think he's going to be a steal in fantasy football drafts in 2025. If you guys are enjoying the video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this every week that will help you win your fantasy leagues in 2025. Next up, we have Bashal Tutin, rookie running back for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, I know Jacksonville has a super muddled backfield with 3 running backs that could all win this job, or all get a lot of the carries. In all honesty, I expect this to be a 2 or 3 running back committee by the end of the year, but just hear me out. His running back 44 price tag is extremely cheap for being the only running back brought in by this new staff. The other 2, Travis Etienne Jr. and Tank Bigsby, have been brought in by previous coaching administrations, but this new regime, headed up by Liam Cohen, former offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, selected Tutin very early on day 3 of the 2025 NFL Draft with the 2nd pick in the 4th round. We saw Liam Cohen last year in Tampa Bay with that elite, efficient offense both in the rushing and passing game. He gave a rookie running back selected in the 4th round a chance. That was Bucky Irving, and Irving proved to be one of the best running backs in all of fantasy football. And again, Cohen rewarded what for Irving? His efficiency. That's why he gave him the job in Tampa Bay over Rachaad White. We saw Tutin average 6.3 yards per carry at Virginia Tech during his last year of college football. If he comes out of the gate with that efficiency and the other 2 don't wow the coaching staff, Tutin could very easily get a ton of the carries in this backfield. And again, at that ADP, you're getting a potential starter with 0 risk. I think there's a reason they drafted Tutin. I think they see him at least as the head of this running back committee by the end of the year, if not the RB1. Looking at him as a prospect, he had the fastest 40-yard dash of any running back in the NFL Combine this year. That was with a time of 4.32 seconds. Obviously, with that elite speed comes big play potential. The one thing I will say is that he's had ball security issues in his history, but if this coaching staff can get that under control, I think Tutin could very easily become a major player in fantasy football. He's going the latest of any player on this list, and I think he could be a major steal, and I'm targeting him as a very high-ceiling, low-floor player. Again, there is risk in his production, but there's no risk in his ADP. In these later rounds, I'm trying to take high-ceiling players that, sure, they may end up not working out, but if they do, they could be major pieces for my team, because I'm trying to give my fantasy team as high of a ceiling as possible to make that run for a championship. I'm going to get some good guys on my bench. Overall, Bashal Tutin's ADP gives me a lot of hope for him in fantasy this season. That new coaching staff in Jacksonville brought him in the 4th round. And I think because of Liam Cohen's history, they're going to give him a fighting chance to be the starting running back this year in Jacksonville. For our last player here, we have Brian Robinson Jr. of the Washington Commanders, and this dude is flying completely under the radar. I mean, you talk about a safe option that's going super late in fantasy drafts. He's being taken as the RB30, but has had over 730 rushing yards in each of the first 3 seasons of his career. And if you went with a 0 RB draft strategy, not taking a running back in the first few rounds to focus on the other positions, Brian Robinson is a high floor but low ceiling guy who is very startable. And again, usually I would advise going for those super high ceiling players, but if you need to start a guy at a position you're very weak at, grabbing Brian Robinson isn't the worst idea. He set a career high this past season in rushing yards, yards per attempt, and rushing touchdowns, and he saw a major jump in rushing attempts inside the 10-yard line, giving him a ton of opportunities at that career high mark in rushing yards like we discussed. With those rush attempts inside the 10-yard line, he saw 14 in 2022, 12 in 2023, but 24 of those in this last season. It's obvious when the Commanders get down to the goal line, they trust him to punch it in, and he did. Fellow Commanders running back Austin Eckler only had 11 carries inside the 10-yard line this year, so it's obvious who they're going with when they get to that part of the field. And again, Brian Robinson Jr. at the RB30 spot is being drafted at his floor. I'm not claiming him as a top 20 running back or anything, but he's a very startable player if you're in a pinch. And I think the risk on him is a lot lower than a lot of the guys going around this position if you need to start him. That's what I got for you guys today. Remember to draft these 4 sleeper running backs in your fantasy leagues for 2025. Comment down below what you thought of my picks. My name is Joe, and this is Fantasy Trading Room.